You guys all tired after lunch? I was just talking with a friend of mine yesterday, and he's going to be speaking at an event we're going to in a couple of weeks, and he was like, he had the after lunch party. He's like, that sucks. He's like, isn't it much better to be like mid-morning when everybody's awake, or at least at the end of the day so people remember you? But I guess we're close to the end of this. What do you guys have, like one more session? Cool. So, content wars. I always struggle when we do events like this because they always make you give your topic like way out in advance. And it never fails that in that, I think Dave asked me for this like 10 months ago, that like over that time, like things change. We do new stuff and I come up with new ideas and I'm like, crap, that title may not be what I want anymore. So I've written this thing, probably a dozen times, as my perspective has changed over the last year. I was talking to my wife and she was like, yeah, but your thing's called Content Wars, so you have to make it about content wars. What do you think of when you think of that? I hate these handheld mics. What do you think of when you think of content wars? I kind of went down the rabbit hole of GPT-generated images during this, so my apologies right from the get-go, but is this kind of what you think of? It's all the social medias versus each other. It's, where do I put my time? Like, what matters? What's going to move the needle? And when I selected this topic, we were on the front end of some really big projects. And I thought, well, we're going to do these. And they're in like totally different mediums. I was writing a book. We were working on launching a documentary series, and I had this like really, really crazy audio project that was an audio drama. Does anybody know what an audio drama is? So you can imagine that it's really difficult when you have a marketing project that people don't know what it is, but essentially think of like a 1930s radio play, but made for business in a modern world, and no one's doing it. So making content across like all these mediums, I'm like, I'm gonna get to the end of the year, and I'm gonna tell these guys, what content should you be making? And as I got to the end of the year, I realized that that was not the lesson. And at the end of the day, when I think of content wars today, I think of the battle we're facing for engagement because people are not engaged. And maybe even more importantly, like the thing that stops us from actually putting ourselves out there. I see a gentleman in the front row that puts himself out there a lot. Is it hard to put yourself out there? Is it ever like you're like, man, I just really don't want to film this, or this is going to look stupid?
To answer that question, just don't do it if you don't feel like it. It'll translate. But so to answer your question, yes, I do feel like that sometimes, but the goal is just to produce content.
Right. I'm Brad Williams. I did spend several years as a home inspector. I hate introducing myself. I was going to try to skim over that. I was working really hard to get around that. Background, building, home inspection, and I've had a marketing agency for the last 7 years. No longer inspect houses. And, over that time, we've kind of turned from agency services to really focusing on media creation and brand engagement. I found that's where I do my best work. So if you need an SEO guy or a website guy or an ads guy or a data analytics guy or somebody to make your social media posts for you, I'm probably not that guy. But if you want to make incredible content and you want to figure out how to stand out in a pretty crowded marketplace, that's what we do. Structure to grow. We good? Now everybody knows. So when I think of engagement, I was just thinking about a friend of mine, and he sponsors this race car. In fact, he actually owns like all the brands on it. I realized today when I was looking. And he sponsors this race car, and he was telling me about it the other day, and he was like, it's the funniest thing. He's like, the racing is like such a cool community. It's so tight-knit. Good lands, this thing's hot. And he said, the funniest thing happens. He's like, we sponsor the race car, and he said, you would not believe the amount of people that call me to do business, not because they like the driver, not because they care about the series, but because I support racing. And on the surface, I would look at something like this and be like, putting your name on billboards is stupid. But the truth is, what it does is it engages with an audience that would not care about who he was any other way. In fact, it's kind of hard to even tell what he does, right? Like, what's Empire? It's a fence company. But people care about racing, and they go figure it out. And they look at who's supporting the series, and then they do business with them. And so engagement is all about, in my opinion, how do you find the thing that like creates that common connection? Because it's a heck of a lot harder today than it used to be. I've got a lot of notes on here because I really desperately want to stay on topic and not preach at you guys. I said I'm not preaching today. 1938, you guys might know this story. Families are sitting around the entire country to turn on the CBS evening radio broadcast. And what ensues is what sounds like a radio show reporting on a Martian invasion. And in that show, the famous War of the Worlds radio broadcast, so many people listened and believed it that it started a national panic. In fact, the government banned what they were doing because it made such a thing. Can you imagine? So I think to me it's like pretty old, worn out story. But can you imagine that not a recorded, not something people could stream, not something that people could even replay, was played over the radio one time on one radio channel, and it sent an entire nation into a frenzy because of the content that was created? Engaging then was pretty cool. Like, I wish we could do that today. Today, people are different. And I promise you these GPT images are going to end eventually. People sit down, and even if they were watching TV, which I don't think that they are, they've got a computer in their laps. I know when we sit down as a family, we don't watch TV together, but everybody's got a computer out. Son's got an iPad. I've got a phone in my hand, flipping through social media. People are way more distracted today. Engagement is hard. Almost done with these horrible images. And there's two battles that you're facing. The external battle to get people's attention, and the internal battle of stopping you from doing it. Over the last year, we've gotten to do some really cool projects that I think have given some things. So we did a really cool project. We did a documentary series, or we were the pilot for a dirty job style show in the pressure washing industry. I thought I was in this image. I think I'm standing on the other side. I'm back there in one of those really cool yellow suits. This was a lot of fun to create. We did I just mentioned it, an audio drama centered around a business. So it was really cool. It was a B2B audio drama about a feature film's worth of content and writing to do it. It was pretty wild. And I wrote a book, which I just got my first box of books, so I'm pretty excited about that too. Over that time, I learned a lot of things about like what not to do, and I think that's like a really good way to start this. So the first thing not to do if you want to engage people is view everything as transactional. Almost all the marketing that's taught or sold is all built around, if I put $1 into it, am I going to get $2 back out of it? And if you want brand engagement, you absolutely can't view it that way. The second thing is, and this is probably a little bit more of a sinister mistake, is thinking people are more interested than they are. I was sitting at breakfast, and I say this with like absolute love because I was a home inspector. And some home inspectors were sitting around, and they were talking about something that they'd seen on a job, and they were just like going on and on and on about some technical detail of an appliance, a kitchen appliance. I think it was a stovetop. And I thought, this is exactly what they're going to post about. And the truth is, like, nobody cares except for other home inspectors. The innate level of interest is something we really don't have control over. You know, if you're Patagonia, You can make endless amounts of content about how you want to save the world and like in paper and plastic use or whatever it is that they're on about these days, and your recycled fabrics, and people actually care about that. But for most of us, we have a much smaller level of attention. When do people really even care about the home inspection? During that like short window. So we have to respect the innate level of engagement. The last thing is outsource. I'm not gonna ask, because you don't have to say, but I would say it's fair that a lot of business owners don't really like to do marketing. They may not feel like they're good at it, or they might not feel like they have time for it, and so they have someone else do it. They pay $1,000 a month, or $5,000 a month, or $10,000 a month, or I've been getting emails around this conference for somebody that's doing it for $99 a month, and they pay whatever that is, and they hope it's done. And this happens like on big companies, and it happens in little companies, and it gets put in a box. But the truth is, engagement happens because of personalities and connection. People do business with people. And when you force some poor marketer, no matter how good they are at knowing keywords, no matter how good they are at knowing the algorithms and how to buy the ads and what's going on with the trends, they can't replace you. So outsourcing, these 3 big mistakes, and I think if you didn't hear anything else I said and you're like, okay, I've had enough of this, I'm like ready to bail, don't do these 3 things if you want people to engage with you, if you want to make that impact. So what drives engagement? I think this is a little bit more interesting. So we're going to go through a list. It's not exhaustive. I realize the more things I put on the list, the more things that I could come up with. So I just kind of put a few that I thought were good. So the first thing is, if it's not to ignore innate interest, we need to respect it. I think this is the best brand. Now this is like, holy crap, this is not applicable. Who cares about Red Bull? They're like the coolest brand in the world. But the truth is, if you think about what their product is, it's the most boring, uninnovative product that no one cared about 20 years ago. It's a crappy tasting drink in a market that didn't exist for that. No one was thinking about energy drinks. So instead of talking about energy drinks, they got really freaking creative. And they went out and sponsored everything from like the boxcar races to air racing and Formula One, and I'm into that kind of stuff. Every extreme athlete wears like a Red Bull helmet. And the more I looked online when I was searching for this picture, the more stuff I saw that I couldn't even imagine that they're into. And now they are top 5 coolest brands in the world because they knew that people weren't interested in the drink, and so they just went out in left field and did something totally different. To stay with our Red Bull theme, novelty. Nothing is more novel. Do you guys know what the Flugtag is? This is the most ridiculous thing in the world, right? They send a bunch of people, they go off a cliff. I assume they're trying to glide. Most just fall in the water. But here's my point on engagement. I was hanging out with a lady the other day, and we were talking about this. She's from Tampa. And she's like, yeah, have you heard of this Flugtag thing? I was like, yeah. Isn't that wild? She's like, do you know 80,000 people show up to that? 80,000 people show up to watch a bunch of morons drive stupid things off the edge of a makeshift cliff into the water. That's the definition of engagement, and that's driven by novelty. So novelty drives brand engagement. Story. This is probably my favorite because it's way more accessible, although I see people in this world, in the inspection world, do a lot of novel things, and you can be creative, but story is a good one too. You guys ever seen this graphic? This has been going around for a while. 2000, average attention span of a human, 12 seconds. Now, 8 seconds. Average attention span of a goldfish is 9. You guys seen that? And that's been kind of through the ringer a few times. People don't have a lot of attention for you. Yet, we're willing to sit and watch like 6 episodes of Yellowstone in a sitting when we probably have other things to do. Are you guys watching I'm not that far in. I'm actually like a real late comer to Yellowstone, so I'm only in season 3, and I've been plugging my ears about like what's coming next. But it's wild, and the reason that people pay attention is because stories engage people. Stories, from a surface point of view, tell us, they make sense of things. Here's all this information, and it pre-organizes for us. It tells us, okay, here's what's happening, here's why I should care, and then even more than that, they give us an open loop, right? Like, once something happens, once the problem arises, we can't leave until we know. I've fast-forwarded through movies just to get to the end because I can't live with the open story loop. Stories are powerful for engagement. Stakes. And I could not care less about politics, so we don't have to talk about politics. That's not the point. But people were pretty engaged in this presidential race, right? People kind of lost their minds over these candidates. Because, and I don't know if you feel this way, and I really don't care, a whole lot of people felt like the person that won, it was going to dramatically affect their quality of life. When the stakes are high, people engage. Personalities. I feel like we just talked about this just a second ago. There's probably no personality that drives engagement more than Elon. You know, truth be told, electric cars and rockets are pretty freaking cool, right? Like, if you had to pick a couple of businesses to be involved with in today's world, they're cool. But I don't know anything about any other rockets that are going to space right now. I know a lot about what's happening with SpaceX. And if you ask a kid what a cool car is, what do they say? A Tesla. My kids want a Tesla. They don't want an electric car, they want a Tesla. You know how cool Teslas are? Did you see that Tesla on the road? Oh, I saw a Tesla today. And it's not because they're the best. There's faster electric cars. There's cars with a more electric range. Kids aren't talking about Lamborghinis, they're talking about Tesla. And the reason that is not because of what it is, it's because of the personality driving it. And whether you like him or hate him or think that he is an evil spur, poisoning the world, he drives a ton of engagement. Or maybe you think he's a hero. Again, empathy. So these are like some big things, and I think they're definitely things that you have to think about. And maybe it's hard, and maybe the examples I used are oh, this is so stupid. He's using examples that have nothing to do with me. I do home inspections. Like, what the F does Elon Musk and Red Bull have anything to do with my business? I'm just trying to make a point. These are the ways, these are the triggers for engagement. But this one is where it really starts to hit home, is empathy. At the very core of engagement, you find brands that empathize with their audience. And this was such a crappy picture, but it was the only black and white one that I could find. But that's Sam Walton. And he's standing at a Walmart store. And I don't know if you know a lot about his story, but he was really famous for going to the Walmart stores and spending time with the associates on the floor. And this was true when they had 2 stores, and it was when they had 2,000 stores. And he would go, and it was real famous, he'd get on the road and he would just spend time with the associates in the store. And he would say that your greatest ideas come from talking to associates, because individuals are the ones with insight. And they carried this into their company strategy. On their Saturday morning meetings, they would bring all these executives together, and their job during the week was to go spend time with the stores in their region and learn about individual products, individual associates, and bring back insights. And they would take something as simple as, this beach towel is outselling the beach towel across the street at this one store in Daytona Beach, Florida. How can we extrapolate that into the business? Empathy is about personality. And the one thing that happens so much is we reduce our customers to things like avatars. Something like, well, my customers come from this zip code and they're this many and a half years old and they have these kids, and we turn it into something where there's no insight. But at the end of the day, Engagement happens when we actually get to know the people. And this will guard us from so many of the mistakes that get made over and over again. Because if I understand who my client is, and I understand what they care about, and understand what problems they are facing, in their words, not what I think they should know, because it would be like really good for them if I could just tell them these 3 things about what happens when furnaces get a little older, that they might listen. So empathy is the first really, really important core pillar to walk away with. And the last one is authenticity. And I think this one is like super, super hard. It's hard for me. I heard this quote recently, and it just is like, it's the best. I don't know if it's because of who said it or because of how true it is. Find out who you are and then do it on purpose. This is a business strategy gold nugget. I don't know, and I'm not a psychology person, and I'm not here to try to ram home some point that I probably am just don't quite understand. But I know at some point, probably in our adolescence, we stop being these really cool little creative beings and we start acting like everybody else. And when it comes to our businesses, we still do that. We still don't want to put something out there that someone else is going to say we're stupid. Or, man, you're a clown. Goodness, why would you say that? You're not supposed to be like that. It's not okay. And my favorite that I've ever seen, I thought I would make it a little bit closer to home, was this guy. We were in a CE class. You see what that says? Home inspector from hell. And I wish I had a picture of his truck. We were in a CE class 10 years ago. And this guy came up, and I remember thinking at the time, I can't believe he would do that. Can you imagine how much real estate agents hate him? But here's what he did. He said, this is who I am. I'm a difficult SOB. I am going to call things out. I'm probably going to make a lot of people mad. But you know what that does? It divides the room right down the middle. Half of the room is like, heck yeah, that's the inspector I want. Half the room is like, oh my goodness, that'd be a nightmare. But this half of the room is going to do business with him, and they're not even going to call anybody else and get a price. Dude was famous for actually showing up to houses and peeking in the crawl space and being like, screw this house is crap, don't buy it, and we get in his truck and leave. So he really did live up to the name. But, and I don't know if he's still in business. His website actually looks like it was made on Adobe Flash from 2001. I was desperately looking for a picture of his truck, and I couldn't find it. But authenticity engages with people. And this is kind of what I wanted to wrap to, and I apologize if this is all a bit ethereal. I really wanted you guys to think. But you have to figure out, where's my authenticity? Where's the empathy with the people that I care about? And then your brand message is where that overlaps. And this is how you will get engagement. So let's talk about content. Oh. And I actually have to disagree with you. I think you make the freaking content whether you feel like it or not. I think the biggest battle that you're going to face in engagement is actually not what other people are doing, but your resistance to doing it. You guys ever heard the cobbler's kids never have shoes? That's pretty famous maxim, right? When I was running the agency and we were doing full service marketing, before I realized that I probably shouldn't be doing a bunch of things that I didn't really believe in. The one thing I never got around to doing? My marketing. We were always too busy. Too many clients, too many of their things to make, too many of mine. And it was a really good excuse. It's hey, I'm too busy to do my marketing. We're doing so much other people's marketing that I can't do my marketing. And I thought that was a pretty good excuse. We were just, the college kids don't have shoes. The marketing people don't have marketing. I was a home builder, and even though I built my house, it was about 95% done the 15 years that I lived there. There were doorknobs that were never put on, hinges that didn't match that I never fixed, trim pieces that I thought, we'll get back to that, and I never did. And I always really liked that excuse because it made me feel good. Cobbler's kids. And the truth is, for every one of those, there's people that are different. my father's a home builder and a home inspector, and he does all his own projects at home, and he gets all of them done, and the home is always immaculate, and everything is finished. He's just actually adding on to the barn at the property right now, and he gets out there every day and fixes it and finishes it, and I would never do that. And when I looked at the best marketing agencies, they were doing the same thing. They made their own content. And what I had to come around to was realizing that it wasn't that I was too busy, it's that I was avoiding it. I didn't want to do it. Because what if I made my own marketing and someone said, "You suck at marketing. Oh, that video, you don't know what you're talking about." I didn't want to be an imposter. And I think that a version of that is standing in everyone's way when it comes to doing something as comfortable, as uncomfortable as pulling out your phone and talking on camera and being authentic and making content that somebody's going to give 2 cents about. And the worst is what if it gets posted in one of the groups and the other inspectors say I'm stupid? That happened. I won't say who or what or how or where, but there was a piece of content and like all of a sudden the person like completely backed away out of the blue, totally without warning. And I realized that someone had seen something he'd done and they're like, "Man, you're stupid." And I think that gets in our way. So we're going to call BS today on all that. What's next here? And I want to tell you a little bit about the lessons I learned creating some of the content that we did. And my hope is to encourage you to do it. Like, that's my big message today. Like, not how to do it, not what camera to use or what lens or, what platform to put it on. Here's like the punchline. Like, all the types of content work. Audio works, Facebook works, Instagram works, TikTok works. When you're picking a platform, pick the one that the people you want to engage with like doing. Respect what it is that they want to see there. And then do it. So the first lesson was, I was listening to a podcast the other day. Do you guys know who Jesse Itzler is? Pretty famous guy, motivational type speaker guy. He started a company called Marquis Jets, I don't know, many, many years ago when he was younger. And he said, "You know how much?" He said, "We didn't know anything about jets when we started a jet company, but they did it anyway, and they ended up selling it to Warren Buffett for like $1 billion." And it made me think about that. And I was thinking about writing a book and what that was like in that process. And I've been reflecting back on that a whole lot. What actually pushed me over the edge to write a book. So I'm gonna tell a lot of things on myself that I hope don't make me sound like I don't know what I'm doing, because I still face like that same fear. And what actually pushed me, I wanted to do it for years, bucket list thing for me, was I was listening to a podcast and a guy was like, "Hey, you know what really helped me write my book, and this is what I do with other potential authors, is get an audio recorder and speak your book into existence, and then you follow this system and you can have a book in 90 days. And I was like, well, heck yeah, I'd like to talk. And that sounds really good. Like, I can do 90 days. So I talk the book and get to the end, I transcribe it, and I go to read through the transcript. Now, I'm imagining that what I have here is like pure gold, right? Like, this is gonna be really good. We'll go through, we'll fix the grammar, format it a little bit. This is gonna be really good. What I read was crap. And that kind of started a process. So I got a developmental editor, and that's the guy that tells you all your stories stink and you're really repetitive. And we started going through these rounds of edits. And it took round after round, and then he's like, okay, now that we've done developmental editing, because again, I thought we were done, like, I have a book now. He's like, no, now you do copy editing. And that's where like you really work on like the structure and the flow and like what you're delivering. And so it went through process after process, and I kept thinking I was done and I wasn't. And looking back, I was so unprepared to write a book. That 90 days was about 20 months ago. And 10 rewrites later, there's a book, and it does exist, and I'm super excited about it, and I didn't bring a copy up here, but I'm super excited about it. But here was the thing. I learned how to write a book by writing a book. That's the takeaway, is when it comes to doing something as foreign as marketing, if you had asked me, what is good marketing 12 years ago, 14 years ago, I didn't have a clue. We learned to have a marketing agency and do all those different things because we just kept trying and doing it. We were terrible. In fact, that's really why I became a marketer, because we sucked at it so bad in our family business that when the market went down, our business went to crap. When we stopped getting the easy phone calls, we didn't know what to do. And we hired the website company and spent $20,000 and nothing happened. And we did the TV commercials and spent $20,000 and nothing happened. And I wanted to know why. Started with a GoPro, got a GoPro, made a series. People said, hey, that's kind of cool. Started doing it for the home inspection business. Got tons of business. And that was back when just making videos of your home inspection business got business. I don't know that that's true today. But the point was we just kept taking steps. Now, I don't know if I'm an expert or not, but they let me speak up here and talk about marketing. I didn't get any training on it. We just did it. Do it before you're ready. Get the camera out no matter how stupid you feel. And here's the antithesis to what you said. You don't have to publish it. I had to rewrite the book a few times. The next one is, and I think this really hits home for a lot of people. Like, I'm not really afraid to do things I'm unqualified to do, but I understand how daunting this can be. So I actually kind of came across this idea of doing fictional media as a business marketing content type tool. And I was like, holy crap, we have to do that. Now, I've never done any fictional stuff before. I have no background in writing fiction, directing fiction, no experience in the movies or television or anything like that. But I was like, we have to do this. And so I was having a conversation with a client like 3 or 4 weeks later, and he was like, hey, I want to do something like really freaking crazy. And I was like, I have the idea. So I told him what it was. He was like, awesome. Can we do it with this much money? And I was like, I think so. And so we just jumped into the pit to do it. Well, then I found out that like writing a story is much like a book. It's a lot more complicated than you can imagine. And so, we get in, we get a writer, we go through this like really cool process. And, first you spend like a month just like spitballing ideas and lots of yes and meetings where everybody's just throwing out stuff. And then all of a sudden that kind of turns into a beat board and you just keep filling it up. And we worked with this amazing writer who writes TV and movies. And he was like, all right, you just got to keep filling it up because it'll feel like it's enough, but it won't be enough. And he's like, we're trying to make 8 episodes that are 15 minutes long. He's like, that is a feature-length film. So you need a lot of story and content. So we just keep making and adding all these stories, and we put it together. And then it's like, okay, now we need people to do the lines. Well, in the beginning, I'm like, well, I'll play the starring role in this, right? Like, heck yeah, I get to star in my own thing. And so we're looking around for people to do it. And we start doing tryouts. And like the first 3 people that tried out were like, oh my goodness, this is going to be tough. And then we got together with this really talented actress, voice actress, and just blew my hair back. I'm like, oh, there's people that can do this kind of thing. And just to give you an example, we're sitting with her and she was saying, well, how's that character? Is it like the right age or whatever? I'm like, well, could you make her like 10 years younger? And she just like changed her voice like that. And she sounded 10 years younger. And then I knew that like we were in over our head and I was like, okay, now I got to find a starring actor for this because I probably shouldn't read any of these parts. And like the 4 lines that I have in my whole series, like I kind of still cringe a little bit when I hear. But we had these amazing actors. And it was something that I didn't know anybody, but once we got into a community, they all knew each other. So we got all these amazing actors, went through this process of audio engineering and all the editing and all these steps. Now, I say all this to say, we get to the end, and my audio engineer sends me the first finished 2 minutes, probably 6 months after we got started. And I am just holding my breath. I'm like, if this can just not be terrible, if it can just be okay. Like, I'd heard everybody, and I'd read it, and I thought it was funny, and I thought the story was good, and I thought people would enjoy it, and I thought the actors were good, but you're just sitting there thinking, I just hope it's okay. And I heard it come together, and it was like the second it started playing, it just transported you into this beautiful, imaginative world. And like, I literally cried. I was riding down the road, and it just brought tears to my eyes. Not because I was so proud of what we'd made, but because I was so humbled at how little I brought to the table and how little skill I had and how little of those things that I could do. But when all the right people came together, the sum was so much greater than the individual parts. I'm not an audio engineer. I'm not a voice actor. I did direct it, but I'd like to think of myself as a director. I'm not a writer, a fiction writer, but we could make a beautiful program, and the entire industry that it's made in is talking about it. And we have a season 2 funded. You don't have to have the skills to do all the things to do the thing. Does that make sense? You don't have to wait till, and these guys back here, these guys are running it's amazing. This is like a really nice AV setup for this kind of conference. These are back here running like all these boards, and they've got like 6 computers out, and they're running all this stuff together. Yeah, give them a hand. They're amazing. You don't have to have all their skills to make amazing content. You can work with people that are really good at what they do, and put your personality out there, and be empathetic, and be authentic. I said I wasn't going to preach, and then I preached. So the third big project that we did this year, I mentioned it, was our Dirty Job Style story, and we're still working on full season funding for this year. We've got a sponsor. He says he wants to do a full 8-episode season, so cross your fingers for me. We do have a Christmas episode coming up. So if you follow what we're doing, we've got a cool Christmas episode. It's in the pressure washing industry. And we worked so hard to get this pilot episode off the ground, and I just didn't think it was going to happen. And I was telling you guys about how bad that was. And did I just tell you guys that story, or did I just tell Brad in a podcast? Did I tell you guys about how bad that was? Somebody shake their head. Okay. It feels like I did, because I did a podcast with Brad Lowry like 5 seconds before I walked in here, and I'm like, am I retelling the same story? Okay. So project, it was Dirty Job Style. One of the documentaries that I really love, you guys know the Jimmy Chin, the guy that does like all the rock climbing type documentary stuff. And I just love that. Now, I'm not a rock climber or anything, but I just love how they get the videos up on the sides of the walls, and it's like you're there with these completely crazy people that are like hanging off. Watch Free Solo if you haven't watched it. And I'm like, that's so cool. So we need that element in this. And then we also need it to be like really cool dirty jobs. And I'll be Mike Rowe once again, thinking I have all these like skills that I may or may not have. And so I'm gonna be like the Mike Rowe, but then we're like gonna do this really high risk stuff. So we had all this project canceled. NFL Stadium said, no, we're not doing that. It's like, okay, writing down, the contractor tried to cancel last second. He's like, I'm not ready. We get down there, and the saving grace was, they were working, the project was this courthouse. And the courthouse was actually a pretty amazing, incredible structure. And we were gonna hang off the side of the building. And this was gonna be the climax of this show, right? Like, this is why people are gonna wanna watch it. I don't know that anybody cares, but to me it was like, I'm terrified of heights. So when we were inspecting, I would do anything I could to not get on a roof. Like, if it's not like a 1-story 412, like I'm just not really interested. So I thought, this will make really good content to put me in a swing, put a thing on me and drop me off the side of a building. Like, I won't have to act. So we get up there, we're gonna do it. We have one day We had enough budget to film for 2 days. The second day was rain. We had 1 day to do it. We get up on the roof, we're getting ready to do it, and the foreman comes to me, he's like, Brad, I'm so sorry, it's too windy today. It's like, this is like a life and death situation. I can't let you get up there. We had banked the whole thing on this. This was, to me, is like, if the project's not cool, no one is going to want to watch what we make. So we finished filming. And I remember getting in the car with the guy that was my DP, that's director of photography, so like the person that's like in charge of the filming part. And we rode home together. It was Florida back to North Carolina, and I was just like, I don't think we have a show. And I didn't want to edit it, and I avoided looking at it for like a month. And I finally sat down with it, and I was like, he just kept telling me, he's like, dude, this is a fun project for you. Just go have fun with it, dig into the footage, find your story. So I start working with it, and we whittle it down and whittle it down. The show is supposed to be 30 minutes long, the finished product, because things need to be the right length. So here's a tip for content. Better to be 5 minutes too short than a minute too long. And really, on a lot of content mediums, better to be a minute too short than a second too long. Remember, people's attention spans are short. So our final product was 16 minutes long. My feature-length documentary pilot was 16 minutes long, which was disappointing to me. And so we start sharing it. And so we start sharing it to people in the industry. Where the sponsors were like, this is really cool. Like, you did a great job, really happy with it. Shared it with like friends and family, and they were all supportive. And it's like, well, whatever, of course they're supportive. They know how much I care about it. And then we started sharing it to industry influencers. And we started getting messages back from person after person that said, this is the best piece of content that's ever been made in this industry. You're making something that could change the way people feel about what we do. Again, and man, I say this now, this sounded so good when I wrote it down, and now it sounds like I'm bragging and saying like I'm good at anything, and I hope it doesn't come across that way. That's not my point. My point is, when you're doing things that push your boundaries, and take this over as a business lesson, take it as a life lesson, but it's definitely a content lesson. It's going to feel like it's not working out and it's not what you think it's going to be. Keep going. Because it can work out. Nothing ever works out the way you think it's going to. I do want to promo my book a little bit. Clients, Content, and Community. After those 2 years, I think we put together, if you feel like, Brad, you didn't really do any nuts and bolts stuff, like we're still not sure what to make. The book is a blueprint for modern marketing. Put it in your arsenal. It releases in like the next 10 days. There is an active Amazon link, even though we haven't launched it. But it releases like the next 10 days. Please connect with me. I'd love to share the book with you. We're going to make it like super affordable. There's going to be a really inexpensive digital copy. But I would love to put the book in your hands. It gives a very simple framework of how to focus on clients, how to make great content in a bunch of steps, and then how to use community, which is your greatest secret weapon, borrowing trust from other people. So that's my plug for the book. I would love to share it with you. So a final story. One of the things that we do is we run a nonprofit that does the same kind of work we do for ministries. We raise money, and then we give pro bono media and marketing strategy for ministries who can't afford it but are doing like really, really awesome things. And this year we had this really awesome opportunity to work with an organization called SALT. And SALT is a homeless resource ministry in Orlando, Florida. And they run locations that provide showers and food and laundry services and mail services and also case management. So they serve over 100 people at their downtown location every day. And in the last 4 years, they have been a part of helping over 1,000 people exit homelessness and find housing. Incredible work. And they have gotten a lot of good support along the way, and we were working with them. And it's a part of, so the guy is also, we're Adventists, and he's a part of the same church that I go to. That's the moral of that story. And one of the things that he's found is there's a conference that goes on every year, and there's a group of people in the church that are all business people, and it's where like a lot of ministries go to get like major financial support. And they've always looked the other way when SALT came in, because they're like, you're not really doing a ministry. You're just helping people get food. You're not doing the evangelizing thing. And they've just never felt like they connected with them. And he said, well, this year we actually are getting a few minutes on stage. They're helping us out with a project. And he said, wouldn't it be cool if maybe we had a good video on stage? He's like, I've got some stuff. You think you could just help me play it? And I was like, no. We're going to make something. And so we found out about the thing that they were really trying to work on. And it turns out it's really hard for people who are experiencing homelessness to get from where their tent is or where they sleep on the street to where those services are. And case management resources are really, really limited. So if they don't get there by a certain time, there's no case management for them. And so we came up with an idea. And we're like, well, what if we get, and I'm going to use this word, and it's a bit insensitive, we're going to get 2 contestants who are going to simulate this. And we're going to show what it's like to get from Kissimmee to downtown Orlando. It's like 20 minutes by car, 30 minutes by car. And so we're like, all right, so we're going to give them 3 hours. We're going to start at 6 in the morning, because if they're not there in line at 9 a.m., they're not getting case management. That is how it works. So we just based it on the reality. And we go and we make this video. So if you will cue up this video, and stick with me, guys, it's about 8 minutes long. But I'd like to share this with you, and then I want to tell you a little bit about what happened.
Public buses operating under the name Lynx recorded over 18 million individual trips in 2023. For the unhoused population that relies on these buses the most, the Lynx system can take hours to navigate what in a car might only take 30 minutes. Today, 2 volunteers from SALT Outreach will experience this firsthand.
Right now, we have two people with us that are going to be getting dropped off basically 20, 25 miles away from the drop-in center. And they're going to have to find their way back. So a lot of people have to go to downtown Orlando or Orlando area to be able to get the services they need.
Services like food, laundry, and showers are available at the SALT Outreach Center. They also provide individuals with caseworkers to help them find stable housing.
Hang on. Commercial break.
Save big on big screens at NFN. We have all the best brands: Samsung, TCL, LG, Sony, Vizio, and more. With hundreds of TVs in stock and on display, our experts will find the perfect one for you. Plus long-term financing at NFN.
Somebody's got to hit the skip button. Here we go. Thank you.
The cutoff time to be seen by a caseworker is 10 a.m. If they want to be seen today, these participants will have 3 hours to complete the 35-mile trip back to SALT.
All right, guys, as we get started, just to go over some of the ground rules on the experiment, you each have $10. I'm gonna give you these $10 now. So you each have $10. You can't pool this money, okay? You guys have $10 that you have to work with. You can spend that whatever you need, but be aware, this is the only $10 you have. This is all the money you have. The other thing is your phones are about to die. You have 5 minutes to look at your phones, to plan out your route, and after that 5 minutes, you're giving me your phones.
My internet is actually not working. That's crazy.
That's not good.
Look, my internet is actually not working. I still work.
3 minutes left.
How many? 3. Okay.
So get there. So go down here and get to Erla.
That's the game plan. I'm just saying it's this way.
Edwin and Sabrina are en route to their first bus stop. They have 45 minutes until their bus arrives. If they miss it, it will put them an additional 30 minutes behind schedule.
I have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, get ready, pack my bag, to get ready to be at the bus stop by 7:35. If I'm not at that bus stop at 7:35, that bus is leaving. If I miss that bus, transportation is, I have to wait another hour for the 18.
In Orange County alone, there are more than 6,700 youth experiencing homelessness and housing instability. Peyton is one of them. He knows firsthand the task Edwin and Sabrina are faced with. He lives it every day.
What if I have a 8 o'clock appointment? That's her only time slot, and she wants to meet with me, my case manager, but I can't because I know if I get out, the bus starts at 5:30. And to get out, I would have to be at 4, and even then I'm not making it 8 o'clock.
See if he takes cash. Take it for 47.
Hopefully it's not more than $3. Today it took us 30 minutes just to walk. And, you know, adding on top of that, if you don't have a place to sleep the night before, I had a place to sleep last night.
Edmund and Sabrina have decided on a route. They plan to take the 55 to Kissimmee Station, where they'll hope to hop on the train into downtown Orlando. This route might be a little more expensive, but it's certainly one of the fastest ways to go. They each have a budget of $10 to take it out.
Okay, get through all the classes. Can we do that?
Faced with the decision to either go find an exact change and wait for the next bus or spend all their money on 2 holiday passes, they chose the latter.
I feel like it was easier for us to be able to make that choice because it's just, oh, we could today. We're not going to keep doing it day after day. But yeah, I think after doing it for a while, my choice was maybe change to be food or water instead of us.
Edmund and Sabrina now have an hour until they reach Kissimmee Station. With all of their money gone, the train may no longer be an option.
So he said that this is the end of the road. He said you'll have to explain to us when we get off.
Okay, the fastest way to get to Orlando
Yeah.
is going to be the Sundogs, however you have to pay again.
Yeah.
The second fastest way is the 401, which comes over here, is the semi-express bus, only has like 6 to 10 stops.
Okay.
The next one is going to be the one-way, which is in front of this one, but the one-way you have to make two, you have to get on the one-way, go to the Florida Mall, and the Florida Mall you change over to the 107.
Do you know the time before
Let me check it.
Protect and secure your gear with top performing trunk belt covers from the leading trunk accessory brand in the U.S. Guaranteed fit, free shipping.
I'll be around.
Thanks. He took 6, then it's 850, you make some there over there.
Okay.
And it's, right now it's 836.
Take off.
All the way to the main station.
Okay.
And you're gonna know where the main station is. It's a big place with a whole lot of buses.
Okay. Cool. Thank you so much. Have a good one. I feel like we lucked out though. I feel like he was very nice.
He was.
Like maybe
Are you-
our parents, like maybe they wouldn't have taken us as serious.
Yeah, we looked a little bit more dirtier.
Yeah.
If you've seen me uninvited,
Yeah.
you probably would have been like,
You do get drivers like that. I may be coming with 2 sets away, and the bus is like, I'm going. And even though you try to like wave them down, they're still going. It's discouraging and it's disheartening.
Because they weren't able to take the train, Edmund and Sabrina added an additional 30 minutes to their trip. They will make it to the central station in downtown Orlando with nothing between them and Salt, but a 1.2-mile walk.
I'm pretty sure we're passing the 3 hour mark though. No, I'm worried.
Yeah, you guys made it right on the dot. But yeah, 3 hours. And normally from there would have been a 40-minute drive.
It's so tiring. I can't imagine like taking showers and work now.
Yeah, I think the bus thing with the whole, you having to give your whole,
Oh yeah, no change. Yeah.
the bus pass was only like $4.50, right? But you each had to give your whole $10 bill because they wouldn't give you change.
Right.
Edwin and Savannah were 2 minutes late. They would not have been seen by case management today.
I've been on the side, on our side, saying, you know, hey, we just filled up, but you can come back tomorrow at this time. You know, I would have never put myself in that. On the other side of like, it took me 3 hours to get here. Like, can't you just see one more person? That is definitely a different perspective.
It definitely gives me more empathy for people who rely on it every single day. I can't imagine having to do it every day.
The services that SALT provides are obvious. What's less obvious is the intentions behind those services. On a much deeper level, SALT's mission is focused on giving the unhoused population of Central Florida a chance at the intangibles that are critical for us all. Things like a sense of community, dignity, and most importantly, hope. There are already enough obstacles toward achieving this. Public transportation shouldn't be one of them.
Thank you. So in the time that we were producing this, SALT lost a grant that they needed to operate that downtown location. And they were announcing that they were going to have to shut down their services. And so we make the video, and we get an opportunity to play it on a TV channel, and it raises tens of thousands of dollars. And then it goes to the event, and it raises a bunch more money. And this whole initiative connected them with an investor who put enough money back into the ministry that they were able to actually never have to shut down the services in the nick of time. And I think the moral is simple. Engagement matters. And the story that I think hit me the most, which amazing that they got the money and it went on, was they were at the event and Eric had been on stage and a guy comes up to him in the booth and he says, you know, I'm a dentist here in town and I do some pro bono services for underprivileged people sometimes. And he said, you know, I get so mad when they don't show or they're late. And he said, I didn't know what they were facing. And when you do stuff, when you make the content that engages, it changes the way people feel about you. Now, I'm pretty blessed to have gotten to do something like this, but I hope if nothing else, and I'm sorry for getting a little emotional, like I haven't watched this in a while and it always hits me. Don't be afraid to do it. Do it before you're ready. Don't be afraid to get help. Don't be afraid to be unqualified. And it's okay if it feels like crap the whole time. That didn't work out. All the things perfect. We had no idea what we were getting into. We just said go and ran and followed them with cameras. So if nothing else, thank you guys for coming today. Go out and make some content. Tag me in it. I would love if you guys would engage with me. This is my LinkedIn. I have a set of QR codes here if you guys are interested at all. This is my LinkedIn. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I've got 2 more QR codes. Tell me when you're ready. Would love for you to check out Grit. We have a holiday episode coming up. I'm going to actually be installing some Christmas lights. So back on ladders. Hopefully it's not like a ladder and fall type situation. And then check out Unhinged. Season 2 will be coming in 2025. It's a total riot. Listen to it in the car on the way to work. It is so much fun. They're short episodes, like 15 minutes long, and you'll definitely laugh. Listen to the first 2 episodes before you're like, I'm so confused what's going on. It takes a little bit of a minute to set it up. But that is it. Thank you, guys.